have quite a few announcements, and I'm not going to cover them all, but I would hope that you would review them on your own. They were mailed out with the order of service. So I wanted to start with that we're going to have service next week will be Jeff Lachter speaking about Hanukkah and emphasize the Advent universal ethic of light, sorry. I hope you guys will all join me and Jeff and learn a little bit about another faith. There's also Advent treats, recipes that you can make to enjoy the holidays, such as you worship. After church, there's going to be a bylaw review and a congregational meeting. So we would like everyone to stay after. We are hoping that you will help join our virtual choir for the holidays. Michael Tacey's looking for more members to help him put together a virtual choir. So it is our hope that you will join us. Just to remind you guys all, food insecurity has increased and will only get worse with the pandemic growing. So the Interfaith Valley Network, as well as other people, are looking for help. There's ways for you to contribute to just about everybody, including contributing to us. If you'd like to send in any additional help for the church, you're welcome to do so. Consider registering your Kroger card. It doesn't cost you a thing. Kroger spends money towards your favorite charity. It doesn't have to be you. It could be even a school. But it's a way for you to donate money that isn't yours, which is always fun. I want to make sure that everybody knows that they should not be bringing any more rummage items to the church. We are not going to be running a rummage sale this year, and there is mold in the rooms, so you don't want to bring anything in, and you don't want to be in those rooms. So everything that was donated, unfortunately, that was in that room will have to be destroyed instead of donated. So don't bring anything more to the church. Obviously, we would love to hear from you if you have anything you would like to include in further announcements. Please stay safe, stay home as much as possible, wash your hands, all that fun stuff, okay? And that is just a brief glimpse at the announcements, and I'm sure I'm missing something because it seems like that went by way too fast. So we welcome you to our service today. Reverend Doug will be lighting the chalice, and we will get our heads together and our hearts together and join us in the lighting of the chalice.
Sorry guys, I had my sound off. I was trying to play the piano, but it wasn't working. 1 second. I will play the chalice lighting song. That's my bad.
Thank you. Oh, I can't say. Now we're going to have the prelude from Michael. It's the little town of Bethlehem. This is a time for us to prepare our hearts and minds and spirits for what we will be experiencing this morning. If you wish, you can drop a prayer stone into your personal bowl of water, or however you would like to get your mind ready and focused. Thank you, Kaylee. That was a fun version. Got a little pep in my step for this morning. Now we would like us all to sing together, Wake Now My Senses, which is number 298.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being and all. Keep with the web of creation your bow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the blue. Join with each
A very nice song. I wish you all would join us in the unison affirmation. We pledge to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children. You know, the one thing I miss about Zoom is actually hearing all your voices say that as a group. Things that we will get when we come back together. So today's message is going to be from Reverend Doug, and he will now talk about a new Advent ideal.
Thank you very much, Diane. It's good to have you as a service leader. I appreciate your help. Good morning. My message is entitled, A New Advent Ideal, Fact-Based Hope. Now, this first Sunday of December is actually the second Sunday of Advent, which is something celebrated by many Christians on the first 4 Sundays, or the 4 Sundays preceding Christmas. And Advent began in the 6th century, but it wasn't widely celebrated until the 13th century, when Christians were encouraged to fast and pray during the weeks leading up to Christmas. Advent was and is a way to remind believers, Christian believers, that similar to the waiting period before a child's birth, they are currently waiting for the second coming of Jesus. As Unitarian Universalists, many of us recognize the likely mythology of Christmas and the second coming of Jesus. Bible experts and historians have not found any factual basis for Christmas, except for its link to ancient pagan celebrations of the winter solstice on December 21st. They didn't know when Jesus was actually born, and so early Christians essentially took over the winter solstice celebrations and made them into a holiday commemorating Jesus's birth. But like other myths, Christmas and Advent include symbols and lessons that transcend faith and can speak to anyone, no matter their religion or their non-religion. And that's the purpose of myths, to teach and inspire not literal facts, but allegorical ideals. Myths are usually ancient stories which were intended to spread life lessons, all at an ancient time when printed materials were very rare. And so people learned life lessons through verbally told myths that were repeated one person to another. Many of the Jesus stories were therefore myths, and thus were never intended to be factually true, but were instead easy to remember lessons teaching service to others, care for the oppressed, humility, generosity, and forgiveness. And the Christmas birth story and the tradition of Advent therefore began as ways to spread such timeless values. And it's in that light that I suggest we consider lessons we can learn from the Christmas holiday and Advent. And so my message today encourages that we consider what it means to hope, which is one of the Advent ideals. Christians understand hope as a reminder of their faith in heaven and a second literal coming of Jesus back to earth. His supposed physical return is foundational to Christianity. It's taught in the New Testament, and it is predicted in the final book of the Bible, Revelations. The hope of Jesus's literal future return is a way for Christians to reconcile the reality that even though they believe a Savior was born to bring universal peace and love and goodness, he is yet to make those happen. And so Advent is celebrated in many Christian churches in order not to lose hope that despite 2,000 years of waiting, Jesus's alleged promises will still yet occur. And for many of them, I imagine that might be difficult right now. Christians might ask themselves how a loving and good God could promise a perfect world and yet still allow this pandemic and its suffering. Their answer, based on their religious hope, is that God is in control, and her promise to one day establish a heaven on earth will be kept. Now, I have said in past messages, however, that I believe God is not a supernatural being watching over humanity and controlling life. She is all of us, and it is we, instead of a mythological God, who are the gods and goddesses. We are the gods and goddesses who will build a better world. And that idea of mine, not anything new. People have long subscribed to it as a life philosophy. Indeed, President Obama once said this, quote, "Hope is not blind optimism. Hope is the belief that destiny will not be written for us, but by us," end quote. And if my personal theological beliefs and Obama's philosophy are true, and I trust many of you share their humanist ideals, then we must continue fact-based hope, having fact-based hope. And that being that despite many terrible things going on in the world, we must have confidence that it's we the people, who will make life better. Humans have historically built increasingly more just societies. People have historically used their minds to investigate, experiment, and innovate discoveries that have dramatically improved life for all. We often take such advances for granted. But in most of our lifetimes, as we know, we have witnessed revolutionary innovations and social justice improvements that prove fact-based hope is not a feeling, but a continually unfolding truth. We need not hope humanity will somehow be magically saved. Instead, we can have fact-based hope in the reality of our abilities to save humanity, because we've actually witnessed that happen. Even today, as most of us know, we're at the threshold of one of the great scientific developments in history, the manufacture and distribution of a vaccine that will help eliminate the deadly COVID virus. These vaccines have been developed and tested in less than 10 months, an amazing achievement that's never been done before. And these vaccines will save millions of lives. They are a part of the historical truth that people, not any god or mythical power, have made and will make life better and longer. In the year 1900, nearly 800 people per 100,000 people in the United States died from an infectious disease. Today, even with COVID, that number is less than 50 people per 100,000 dying from an infectious disease. Science, which is the application of human reason to solve or understand natural phenomenon. Science is a factual reality proving that we save ourselves. In that regard, our hope in science is not founded on faith, which is defined as religious hope. Faith-based religions see a world of death and disease and violence, and then hope a supernatural being will magically make everything right. But science and the application of human reason see such a challenging world, and then create verifiable solutions. We should have, therefore, fact-based hope and trust in the power of our own brains and the commitment of our hearts and the ability of our bodies to be, as I said earlier, human gods and goddesses who, working together, achieve the seemingly impossible. And that's the key point of my message. I don't suggest we discount or ignore injustice or suffering in the world. Instead, I propose a revised understanding of hope. Hopeful feelings are often true in a person's heart, but they cannot be factually proven. Fact-based hope, however, is based on verifiable trust that people and the pursuit of reason and science will build a more just world and develop life-improving innovations. Of course, we currently see oppressions and violence and systemic discriminations in the world, and we rightfully lament them. But for many of us, hate and injustice can cause us to lose sight of the fact of fact-based hope that we ought to have. And that can affect our attitudes and our outlooks. Without trust in a better future, without trust in fact-based hope, we can be prone to despair and then even stopping the life-improving work that's our purpose. I believe that equal to our anguished feelings about present injustice, there should also be our awareness that justice has advanced throughout history, and it will continue to advance. As we know, a little more than 100 years ago, women were still unequal and had no say in our democracy. But just a month ago, Black and white women expressed their right to vote, and they were instrumental in determining the recent election. 100 years ago, Black men were often lynched while crowds of white people eagerly watched. Black people, of course, could not vote, and they mostly could not attend school, much less college. And of course, their job options were extremely limited. Needless to say, advances in racial justice over the last 100 years and the application of equity and equality have indeed made Black lives matter and better, even though there is much more yet to be done. Only 500 years ago, in the annals of social justice history, slave trading, as we know, was horrific, but a common business. White people thought nothing of capturing and inspecting, buying and owning other humans. And in most areas of Europe, poor white people were also virtual slaves. They were permanently locked in a feudal economic system where they could not own land or property. Therefore, most European whites were born as serfs, and that was their permanent destiny. Only a few were born as wealthy nobility. And the only way most white Europeans at the time could survive was to be a captive farmer on the nobleman's property. And it's interesting that similar feudal systems also existed in Asia, in China, India, and Japan. Of course, today we see a completely different standard for people. And the vast majority of our ancestors living 500 years ago had life expectancies of only 30 years, during which people lived hopeless, violent, disease-ridden, and captive existences. Today, most people live demonstrably better than ever before in history. The same is true of warfare. Once again, we know right now that we feel the anguish of wars and terrorism and violence. But worldwide, deaths today caused by wars are less than 1 per 100,000 people. 500 years ago, they were 10 people who died from wars out of 100,000. And war deaths shockingly reached their peak during World War II when nearly 200 people per 100,000 died from war. And of course, the trend is clear. While humans can still be terribly violent, that has significantly decreased over time. For us, therefore, we must know and cognitively trust that the hope we have in humanity, in democracy, in justice, and in science are not mere wishful thinking. Our form of fact-based hope is something much stronger and real. Religious faith and hope can be beautiful things, but knowledge and fact-based hope are more reliable and true. The myth of a child born to rule the universe with goodness and love, that's a wonderful story. But it is just a story, just an allegory for something much, much more real. Every child born into this world is a savior, one who will, in some fashion, serve, love, and care. That's not faith. That's not hope as a feeling. That's fact. And since this is so, I implore us to reflect on it, and more importantly, incorporate it into our everyday thoughts and actions. Fact-based hope allows us to understand threats and negative forces as things that we can and will overcome. And those last words, will overcome, are intentionally taken from the hope-based spiritual song of the same title. They come from a song of trust and assurance. We will overcome someday. We will walk hand in hand someday. We will live in peace someday. And the most important verse, we are not afraid today. Today. Why? Because we know that peace, love, and victory of good over evil will happen not because any God delivers them, but because you, me, and millions of other people around the world will deliver them. And that's true for the world, for our nation, for our families, and yes, for our church. This year, we've been beset from all sides. Deaths from an incurable disease, an economy with millions of people out of work, an election that tested our democracy, protests against hate and systems of injustice. And for us as a church community, separation from one another, isolation from our physical sanctuary of inspiration, and yes, even some doubts about whether GNH can survive. And with all these trials, it's understandable to feel despair. And it's comforting to have feelings of hope of better days. But it should be factually reassuring to know, to have the fact-based hope that we each have the power, the ability, and the commitment to make them right. Despite the challenges, the world will survive. Democracy will not be defeated. This congregation will continue to serve, love, and inspire. Hope, firmly rooted in the knowledge of human goodness and science and reason, can and will make each of them happen. And I shared with you a few weeks ago during Joys and Sorrows my tremendous joy at learning that I will be a first-time grandfather in June. And my happiness comes despite my past concern that I never would be a grandfather. And I discussed that concern with my now expecting daughter, who told me or shared with me her fear of bringing a child into a world of such tremendous hate and division, and of course of climate change. I understood her fears, but I shared with her my belief that every decision to birth and raise a child is an expression of fact-based hope. We cannot know if any child will grow into a pioneering scientist or an inspiring leader, but we do know that every child can grow into someone who changes the world for the better in big or small ways. Each of us have been such people. And of course, each of us will continue our purposeful work until we breathe our very last. To rephrase a Bible verse that's often said during the holiday season, for unto us children are born, unto us sons and daughters are given, and the government shall be upon their shoulders, and their names shall be called Wonderful, Wise Counselors, Mighty Servants, Great Thinkers, Builders of justice and peace on earth. And I wish us each a holiday season of fact-based hope. And I thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Doug. That was very inspiring. Thank you. Some days I'm speechless after these presentations, our thoughts and our ideas for the Sunday, and this is one of those where I'm a little tongue-tied. So excuse me. So now it is time for sharing our wealth. Please, if you are a guest, please keep your checkbooks and pocketbooks closed. We love your presence. We don't need your presence. For anyone else who has the spirit of giving, please, if you're a member, you can do this by sending a check. You can set up automatic donations, use Givelify, or any of the numerous ways that you already know. So in this time of sharing our wealth, we will be serenaded by Michael doing the Great Unknown Jukebox, The Ghost, which is all new to me.
Streets are empty and you don't feel right.
Thank you, Michael. So now we've come to the moment of joys and sorrows. Please raise your hand if you have something to say, and we will try and pick you out of the wonderful crowd of faces. And know that we support you in your sorrows and we are happy for you in your joys.
Dave Hester.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Just wanted to let you folks know that the last time you saw me a couple Sundays ago, unbeknownst to me, I had become positive with COVID. And so my joy is that I'm over it, apparently, and it was a mild case.
Okay, thanks.
Without any major issues. So it was a scary week and a half, but I seem to be through it. So just wanted to let you all know. Thanks.
We're
Great.
so glad you're all right.
Thank you.
I have similar news. Can you hear me?
We can.
This week, my wife, Marianne, who's in the memory support unit at Bodmin at Maple Knoll, was reported positive for COVID. And she is in the isolation unit of Bodmin. She's getting along well. She apparently has a mild experience going on as well. And she's about halfway through the 10 days that she'll need to be there before going back to the memory support unit. So, lots of concern, but it seems to be working out.
Yay. We're so glad. I see Sue Klein.
I just, I'm so sorry to hear that news, John, and I'm glad that Marianne is getting along okay. I am very sad that you cannot go and see her, and I hope that
that is the case. I have talked with her every day on the phone and had a Skype phone call as well. So there is a connection, which is very important.
That's for sure. Well, I hope she can feel all the good energy coming from this community of people.
Thank you.
I saw Debbie Palmisano.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Bill and I have successfully made the trek from Key West. We arrived yesterday. It's freaking cold up here. We don't like it a bit, but we're here for the month. Good to see everyone.
I agree. We don't like the cold either. Well, I shouldn't speak for everyone. I don't like the cold either.
Hate it.
Nada.
Nothing.
Nada, you have to unmute yourself.
My daughter, Dana, who's been in Florida 10 years now with her family, she's 43, was diagnosed with stage 4 invasive ductal carcinoma of the left breast. So she started chemotherapy just about 6 weeks ago. But after the first session, she noticed a lessening of the hardness of the tumor. So she has her hope, but I'll still need prayers for Dana.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We support you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, I wanted to comment on Doug's message. Did everybody hear the message of the 60 Minutes program? I think it was last weekend. It was on aging. 1/2 of the young people born today will live to be 105 years old.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's unbelievable.
It is. Anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone.
Sue.
I'll make this quick, but I remember when we were founding the gathering and we had the rare opportunity to really create our own, or to express our own beliefs, to pull together and figure out what it was that we were believing. And we had a tagline at the time, and the tagline said, God in all and all in God. And I think that has become, it's foundational for me. And I think it expresses what Doug was saying in his message about just who is God anyway. Thank you.
Yes.
It's a great thought. Is there anybody else that I missed? Oh, yes. Hi, Ann.
I just wanted to say today, because I know there's the election, it's been such a special joy to have the people who will be going off the board today on the board. Suzanne, who I think about, who did our proposal kind of form and got us the money, and I've, we've been so informed, I think, about everything. She sends wonderful emails and has kept many things going for us. So I've really been very pleased with that. And I think Sue Klein's leadership has been outstanding. And the fact that we now have the endowment and so many other things that they really have worked on and put together. So I can't say enough about the work that they've done.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. All right, so for all the joys and sorrows not shared, I will drop my metaphysical stone in my metaphysical water. Oh, Michael, did you have your hand up?
No, that was me dropping the stone.
Oh,
the
okay, thank you. Metaphysical stone in the metaphysical water, thank you. I needed that. So we are going to sing together, We Shall Overcome. It's number 169. I'm going to mute my horrible voice, but please sing loud and clear as you would like.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
What a beautiful song. May we all live in peace and be free in the coming years to come and for all our generations into the future.